Gabehart.
All right, good evening, everybody. We're a couple days late just because travel schedule, things like that. But this is episode 7 of season 2, Unfiltered Race Fans Only. We're exiting the third triple header of the year. We've opened the season now with 3 races with all 3 series on track. This coming weekend when we go to Phoenix will be the first time we don't have all 3 on track this year, I believe. It'll just be the Grand National and the Cup cars. So. Um, the trucks were at St. Pete with the Indy cars, which actually put on a pretty good race overall. And um, the big besides the fact there's a couple things we'll talk about with that. Then you got the 2 races at Coda where SVG played with his food, which was hilarious, and then uh, the 2311 race winning streak continues, and then if we got time, we'll get into some other off-topic stuff that happened earlier in the week. So with that, let's start with the truck race. What did you watch of it, if you watched it, and what'd you think?
Well, it started before I got off work, so I missed the first 40 minutes of it. But from what I saw, I never thought I was going to say this, but I enjoyed it. I'm not much for road courses anymore, but it made me want up there. It really did. And I am hopeful that next year, instead of a truck IndyCar doubleheader there, we have a Cup IndyCar doubleheader. Even if it makes Cup be on Saturday, I'm fine with that. Uh, that's something Roger Penske owns now, is St. Petersburg. Not owns, but owns the rights to race there.
Mhm.
And I just, I think it'd be a good idea for Cup to go there. But outside of that, the trucks put on a hell of an event. Uh, Lane Riggs ate some lunch, and
Yep.
um, I honestly thought it was Ben Rhodes' race there for a while, and Lane just picked it up. Uh, I think Rhodes might have gave it away at the end. I think he was over driving just a little bit
Yeah.
and heated his stuff up, but it put on a way better event than I could have ever expected. I feel like the Truck Series guys really stepped it up. They've been stepping it up all year, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Uh, they've put on 3 really good races, and it kind of makes you wonder what's coming ahead with as good of a show that they've been putting on.
Yeah. I enjoyed what I got to see. The first thing that really jumped out to me that I was super proud of, because you're there with this, the third tier series of NASCAR, if you will. It's lowest of the 3. And this is where the vast majority of your newcomers are. I was just impressed because we've seen it with at the highest level, so it was not unrealistic to expect it at the trucks level. See them all go into a turn and wad them all up and look like a bunch of idiots over and over and over again, as we've seen year after year with our Cup guys and the Grand National guys. And this was the trucks first, in a long time, but it was their first street course race. And I was just very first happy as a race fan to see them not go out there, show their ass and step on their dick. They actually put on some really good racing. Um,
Chris tell you to say
I
that?
was he did. No, but I was impressed with the outings from Hinchcliffe and from Franchitti. I was glad to see in a weekend paired with IndyCar guys. Not only were we there, 2 different racing series together, but we had crossover drivers, into one of our series. So I thought that was
I don't
good.
know. One of those drivers I've never heard of, Jimmy Hinch.
Jimmy Hinch, he got an alter ego. That's like his Chris
I
Gaines,
thought
Garth
I
Brooks, or
thought
whatever.
one, I thought it was awesome he used it, and two, I
Yeah,
thought it was amazing that NASCAR allowed it
yeah,
because I don't know if a lot of people know, but we all know who Butterbean Queen is. Well,
yep,
they won't let him be on the entry list as that. It has
yeah,
to be. It has to say Brendan Queen.
yep.
So it's pretty neat that they let him put Jimmy Hinch on there. And as far as Dario Franchitti, what's it been 10 years since he's been in
Mhm.
anything? And he goes
Yep.
out there and he runs top 10 until the end. He's still got some juice in him.
Never raced a truck, goes
Yeah.
out there. Hangs tough. Same thing with a hinge clip. Like I was overall very impressed. Like yes, they're just like SVG, their road racing background helped them, but it's totally different wheeling these things around than it is those Indy cars that have bigger brakes and turn on a dime where you have to sling these things around in an environment that's very unforgiving. So,
Not
uh,
to mention IndyCar, when you're shifting, it's on the steering wheel.
yep.
And in these, you're having to take your hand off the wheel and shift. I mean, I know it's not much different, but when you're used to doing this
Hmm.
all the time, and you go to shifting with your hand, I mean, that
And then
changes the whole.
on top of it, the heat. It was hot, but it wasn't super hot. But it's hot inside that truck. It's hot inside those
Hmm.
cars. Well, it's not hot compared to a truck or a car in an Indy car where you have an open cockpit. And yeah, you've got the halo and everything now, but you have
Yeah,
way better airflow down in those open cockpits than you do in these others. So,
I had no clue they were going to the more of an F1 looking Halo. And when I first saw them on track this weekend, the Indy cars, I was like, that looks way different than
mhm.
last year.
Yeah,
It looks cool, but just way different.
yep. The only thing from
Instead of
that
not having the
weekend,
field.
and every podcast, every radio show has talked about it, is not it's not Pillow. He won. Pato Award, his comments about
Oh man,
playing second fiddle to NASCAR. And I get that you don't want to be second fiddle, especially to the truck series. But at the end of the day, every single
they
NASCAR team
weren't. They
series,
raced on Sunday.
right, you had the main day. You guys are like because he's upset that he feels like they're the second card, if you will, in the event. No, you're the main event. The trucks were the warm-up act. And
No,
if you
this
don't think,
weekend
right, but
they
if you
are the
don't,
second fiddle.
you're right, but they, you
Third
know,
fiddle, really.
and so now this weekend it'll be different. But for that particular weekend and how he viewed it, he's taken a beating from a lot of people because he said it's good for the fans, but then he said it's not good for us. Well, it's good for everybody because it exposes IndyCar to NASCAR fans, where, NASCAR fans that are especially, legacy fans that may not be open to what IndyCar has to offer. Well, you're going to have this crossover to see, okay, maybe you get a chance to go back and look at it. It's been a long time. What's changed in IndyCar and vice versa. You grow the motorsports as a whole needs to grow. At one point in time, motorsports was second to the NFL only. It was more powerful than basketball and baseball and this stuff back in the mid 2000s before the cart split and before NASCAR kind of killed some of its momentum. They were motorsports was the hottest ticket outside of the NFL and well, I'll say college football right there with it, but you know, so you don't want to derail it. You want to ride this wave and help each other. And at the end of the day, most motorsports fans just like motors. Like anytime somebody starts talking about, now this is just me. I like football, college and pro, but I really don't care outside of those two things if it doesn't have a motor. That's just me. I really don't care. If it doesn't have a motor, I don't care. That's just, how I was raised. There's
Same.
nothing wrong with baseball, nothing wrong with basketball, but it's not for me. It doesn't. So go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and I'm the opposite. I like pretty
Yeah.
much all of it.
And that's fine. Like, but so to as hard as these series have worked to try and build their brand up, and you look at what Fox is doing with their commercials for those drivers during the Super Bowl, and the steps NASCAR has taken, which is a later topic if we get to it, about how we lost for a while. We were in a losing streak of losing content, losing access to marquee figures across all of motorsports landscape. Now we've we've finally completed this turn, if you will, on our course, and now we have an abundance of content. And this can create only more content. So you want all the extra personalities, you want the extra exposure and coverage. You shouldn't be wanting to. It's nice to be the solo act, but does it? You guys can't get paid more if there's not more eyes on it. If there are more eyes on it, there's more sponsors. More sponsors equals more money. Like you're short sighting yourself to say that we don't want to be second fiddle. Well, I'd be happy to be second fiddle if it raised my viewership by 200,000 people a race, because you know what? 200,000 more gets the attention of an investor. That investor might come and sponsor your car, or they might sponsor the series or a race.
Another thing to go along with that, being an IndyCar driver, he needs to look at the fact that they're on Fox
Yep.
all year. For instance, this weekend, Saturday, at I think 3 o'clock, they run on Fox. On Sunday, Cup runs on FS1.
Yep.
The Cup is still going to eat their lunch
Yep. On
on
cable.
tape.
Oh yeah.
So
Get one.
he needs to watch what he's saying and realize that even if they ran head to head on again on different tracks, NASCAR is going to eat their lunch, and
Oh yeah.
it's good to be combined, like you said, good to be combined with them because that helps you in the long run.
Especially and that's just the TV audience. Now let's talk about the fans at the track. I had never been to a sports car race. I had never been to any type of other racing besides NASCAR until I went to a road weekend where they were doing some testing with both, And so if I'm a race fan at a racetrack for the weekend, St. Pete, or this weekend at Phoenix, now I'm getting to see not just stock cars in various forms. I'm getting to see Indy cars. So if I'm interested in the technical details and the physicality of those cars, and IndyCar has a much more open autograph policy too. So, they have a whole thing where they all sit up there and sign autographs and everything. So as the at track experience of them being paired together is good for growing your brand. Because if I come there for the Cup or Great National or Truck, and you're there too, and I don't have to pay to get an autograph, and I have better pit access, for example, to your cars than I do at NASCAR. Well, as a fan, that might make me purchase another ticket where you're not part of the weekend, but I might go to one of your solo events now. So there's tons of opportunities there to grow that I hope that they take advantage of, because it's definitely out there. But and then yeah, awesome work by Lane Riggs. I'm sure he'll be. I feel like I'm not sure, but I feel like he should be in a Grand National car next year. But the
Only
question is
problem
where
with
and for
that is
who.
with who? With who? Because
Right.
front row doesn't have they don't
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
Riley ride. So like who do they farm him out to? Do they just bring him up to Cup?
And if you bring him to Cup, who do you not have anymore? You got Smith, you got Gilliland, and they're not shabby. They're not bad guys. They're winners too.
um and I mean Noah's there too, and it's just I don't know. The team is lacking a bigger name driver, in my opinion. They need to.
Yeah.
I mean, change is what I was about to say, but like they need somebody that has more experience than the three they have to
Yeah.
help.
Losing
Luke
McDowell was
down,
bad
yeah,
for them.
yeah.
Uh,
Um, but if he moves up, you like I said, where does he go? There's not very many Ford rides in O'Reilly, so you just kind of
yeah.
he's probably going to have to find something on his own. Probably a Chevy ride because that's what Ford and Toyota does. They develop these guys and then they go to Chevrolet somewhere.
They go to Chevrolet because they make up the other 60% of the field, or
Yep.
70. All right, so we move from one warm location to the other. We get Dakota. The first race of the weekend there. I don't really know how to characterize it. To me, the most memorable moment wasn't Shane winning. It was when he made that pass, and he was so on, cruise control passing him that he did it with two fingers out the window like deuces. Like that, that to me was awesome as a fan, and embarrassing as fuck if I'm sitting in one of those race cars because
So
like he didn't
I
just
think
pass you; he passed you with one fucking hand.
I think that he does that when he passes people, and he feels like they gave him room.
Yeah,
I say that because I thought it was funny and cool as hell when I saw it Saturday too. But when he passed Larson on Sunday at one point, it was after the S's, and then you turn left to go to a small straight shoot, and then another left. He passed him right there, and he put two fingers out there. I think that if you give him plenty of room and let him go, that's just his thank you. It
Yeah.
looks like he's saying deuces, but I think he's saying thank you.
Well, and I know he said, Connor was telling him that his car's number one several times during the race when Connor was flipping him off,
Yeah,
which I really can't wait. I thought we were going to get to see it this weekend because Connor ripped through the field in the main event. But we've seen what they can do in the second tier, and
yeah.
I'm really excited for what's going to come next.
It
But
really is a shame that his brake rotor or whatever it was, his brakes messed up Saturday because
yeah,
he definitely, you know, he is the only person. I guess Reddick does too, but the only person that has something for SVG. It seems like because he's just on it every road race.
yeah. So
With
yeah,
sorry,
no, go ahead.
I was going to say with Zillich, you had the issue with him and Corey Day, and there's a lot of people bashing Day, and you really go back and look at that. That was a out and out mistake. It you could see Corey's turning the wheel, and the car. You can see the car lose, and he corrects it just a little bit, and it shows up the track, and there's Connor. I mean, if you really watch it, it's yeah, he's probably overdriving it and he's still learning these cars, but I don't look at that as him being a dumbass. It's just the car lost grip and he went up the track. I mean, another 2 inches back and he doesn't hit him.
Yeah,
It,
I'm willing to give. That's what I was going to ask you. So you're a Larson fan. I cheer for Larson as well, but I don't know as much about Larson as you do by any means. And on the subject of Corey Day and the mistakes he's been making and the people he's been running over lately, I was curious, because you follow Larson more, especially on like Flow, Dirt Vision, stuff like that. What, because other than, him being in a Hendrick sponsored car, I don't really know much about him, and he doesn't have a lot of pavement experience. So what is it that, okay, so he's got 13 starts over the last 2 years with trucks. He's got 14
you're
starts.
asking why Hendrick is backing him?
I'm asking, I understand Larson endorsed him. I'm not asking why they're backing him. It's why did we start him? Why did we jump him so far ahead before he really had success? He only had two top fives and three top tens out of 30, 40, 47 races. He wasn't really ready to move out of trucks. And then last year he ran 19 races and he had one top five and two top tens. So, when we look at the measuring stick they use to move other people up, I'm just curious, do you think they moved him up too fast just because of the person standing behind him? Because not everybody, and I get to this because Kyle Larson is a anomaly. Jimmy Johnson was an anomaly. Jeff Gordon was an anomaly. Not all these guys were excellent at the stuff they were in at the second and third tier, but at the same time, they all had some other form of asphalt background a little bit more before they got brought up to the bigger show. And I just feel like they've rushed him through kind of. And as a result,
So
that's part of where these mistakes are coming from. I've no doubt the talent, but can he, it's kind of like, to me, it kind of reminds me of like a Cool Runnings. Yeah, he's fast as lightning, but can lightning run on ice? Well, he's fast as shit on dirt, but can he run on asphalt without running everybody over? And how much runway do you give him when you're running over other Hendrick cars at that and other junior motorsports cars? Like there's a limit to how much Junior and Mr. H are going to put up with that. So and that's out before we get outside of the field to everybody else he's running into too. So
so what I'm seeing, hearing, reading, whatever you want, like all the things, is that when it comes to let's just backtrack to dirt. When it comes to dirt, he's Larson 2.0 better. He at his age, he's better than Larson was at Larson when Larson was that age. And they're looking at that, and he's got obvious raw talent. He's running in the top 10 on his first road course. Yes, he was in a Hendrick car, but he was running top 10 in his first road course as a dirt guy. So you got that, but he's got so much raw talent. I think that's why they moved him up so quickly. And you put in, you got to look at last year. You got to look at the ARCA car and the Truck Series truck he was racing were not the greatest. He was running the Spire truck, which really Spire hasn't been that great lately in trucks. Outside of super speedways, they're not that great.
No,
And
I agree.
then I don't know what car he was running ARCA, but those cars weren't they were junk. So if you take that into account, let's put him in our top of the line O'Reilly car, see what he does. And right now he's what is he? Third or fourth in points, fifth.
Hmm.
So and that's after three races on tracks that are just nuts. And now we know the 17 car at Phoenix, Vegas, these tracks coming up is lightning fast. If he finishes in the top five and keeps his nose clean, nobody be talking about him anymore, and he'll be a championship contender.
Yeah.
I think I think that that's what they're looking at. Let's see what he does in our top notch ride. And honestly, if he does what on paper he should do, I've got it's a small feeling. It's not a huge thing or anything like that, but I've got a feeling you'll be seeing the new driver of the 48 next year.
As much as I would hate to disagree with you, I do agree with you on that one. I do
Yeah.
think, unless there's a veteran, and I say veteran, but not an older veteran, but if there's a younger guy like an Eric Jones that was available, for example, he could go make success in that 48 in a heartbeat. He was successful in JGR stuff. He won in petty stuff when they had no support. And he won for Legacy when they had no support. So, I, if Jones was available, I would take him for an immediate return. But I do understand what you're saying, and I don't entirely disagree with you. I got to be honest. Like it does hurt me. I feel bad for Bowman, but I think Bowman's time has passed. I don't know if it's just he's not recovered from that back injury the way that
He's
say
not looked the same. He had a point lead that year. Not he hadn't won, but he was very consistent. He breaks his was his back he broke
yeah, he
or
hurt his broke his back.
tailbone or something. And you know, when he came back, he was still okay, and he's won a race or two since then. But like Chicago Street Course, he kind of backed into. I mean, that's most of his wins have been backed into. I mean, you have to be there to back into them, but at the end of the day, that's what they were. I mean, so
Yeah.
you're driving for Hendrick, you have you have all these guys finishing in the top 10, top five all the time. And where do you see the 48 that's won seven championships? I don't know. You just
Yeah.
don't see them.
Yeah, I agree. I from a silly
Now,
season's perspective, I think it's already
it's
too
not
late.
the
I
same
think
team. It's not the same team. It's just a number. That team is the five. But, so go ahead. Sorry.
well, all I was gonna say is regardless of who's crew chiefing it, piloting it, etc., like other than the driver piece, as an organization, Hendrick has qualified for the Final Four every single year in the old playoff system, with a minimum of one driver. They have won three of the last four of the last five championships, right? Because they won, or when you get to it, it's more than that because Larson won two,
2020,
Chase. So
21, and 25.
okay, so of the what they basically won half, Penske won half, and Joe Gibbs has one in there. And so when you look at that, and they're from across those other three cars, they're the only one that did win a championship is seriously contending it. As irritating as it is to watch Byron go up there and steal wins from halfway back, the fact is he still gets the wins. So and they contend for the Final Four, in the old system, and most certainly he will be inside that top seven when we get to season's end.
And then
Uh,
if you look at other ways of looking at it, Larson would have won 24 championship
right.
as well with you look at just points. So I
Yeah.
mean, Bowman is The only thing Bowman has really done since he broke his back is when he had that really good playoff in 24.
Yep.
I mean, he had a really good string of good races, but you know, outside of that, he hasn't really.
So
I
I
mean,
picked
finished
Bowman
up.
to make the. We're kind of all over the place, but I had picked
Sorry.
Bowman to. Well, yeah, I had picked Bowman to make the final 16, and I don't think he makes it to 17th at this point. There's just something not right there, and with all the resources that he has at his disposal within that team, I know Ally loves him, but I don't know that that's going to be enough.
Right.
Especially when you have options out there like Corey Heim, Corey Day, uh, Sam Mayer. You have the other drivers, whether you want them or not, are they better options for you? I would say yes. Even if they're going to tear up some of your stuff, they're all known winners. Bowman is a known winner, but he's just not performing the way he was before. Maybe he needs to take a step back. So, but
Well,
before we get into the rest of the Cup program, I wanted to finish off the O'Reilly stuff. So, other than obviously the Wreckfest that happened there, and then SVG winning, anything else from the Grand National race you really want to touch on for the thing? Like I said, I would like to have seen what Connor could have done had he not had a damaged car, but that day's going to come.
I don't really have much. It's just, I mean, I know SVG and Connor are of course experts. That's what they are.
Mhm.
But it blows my mind how much the field is different. Like it looks like a cup field from the 90s. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
you have these guys that just suck at road racing,
Oh
and then you
yeah.
have these guys that are good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Like
basically like
it
watching Robbie Gordon, Tony Stewart, and Jeff Gordon versus the field back from the
yeah,
90s.
that's what it looks like
Or
exactly.
Ricky Rudd, yeah. Comparatively. So yeah. It's I feel bad. Like I said, when he went by and he threw deuces, as a fan, the initial view, you're like, wow, he's just playing with his lunch. Like these guys, they don't. He just reached out there and fucking takes it. He's like, oh yeah, watch this, 5 wide, and I'm gone. Bye. And then after that, nobody could, sniff his tailpipes.
Right.
And we saw that with the last five cup races last year. Whether it was by 4 or 5 seconds or 25 seconds, he was just playing with his food. So um, now we move on to the main event. And so entering in it, last year Bell won three in a row. We've seen Larson win three in a row. We've seen Gordon win multiples in a row. I would not, I wouldn't have bet against Tyler Reddick to win a third consecutive race based off of how well he does at Coda and everything. But still, but having to beat SVG to do it, and Allmendinger and Suarez, all of which who are really good road racers and have won at these road courses, to beat those guys and do it was immensely impressive. Was it boring as hell to watch? Absolutely, because he just spanked them. He was in another league, and it just it
There's black
yeah.
helicopters that are saying
Yeah.
that Reddick has 100 more horsepower than everybody, and it's like, shut up.
I don't think that's
That was
true.
part of the settlement. Let the 2311 cars have more horsepower.
The fact that he
Yeah.
outran the five straight, the winner of the last five straight road course races, and the guy who won there the day before, speaks to just how locked in he was.
Mhm.
Um, and I will not put it past them to go four in a row this weekend,
Uh,
just because of
ain't happening.
I
They would
don't.
have had to pick up so much knowledge over. Like Reddick has never, and I do mean never, run good at Phoenix.
Well,
Like
we're going to
back
find
half
out
top
because
10.
Bell and Briscoe have, and they're all Toyota teammates. So we'll get to that
I,
part. But
I'm sorry.
so besides Reddick just being out there in a world all by himself, what did you think about the rest of the race? I was entertained by the Bell Larson drama where they're bouncing off each other and kind of running each other wide and
Yeah,
passing
I
each other
was
in
I didn't
crossover.
watch on board Larson's, but I got to watch on board Bell kind of to see the different point of view, and
Mhm.
it was definitely fun. They
Like, that was fun to watch.
and all right, left side he's diving. Okay, he's got you. All right, you're now he's on your right side. Diving, just
Yeah.
my goodness, just
I like that they
very
raced so hard. They didn't damage each other's cars horrendously. They didn't run each
right.
other off into the dirt. They raced hard, but they didn't take each other out in the same vein.
Well, what I want to one of the first things I wanted to talk about with the Cup race is you watch Reddick start from the pole, and within like 10 laps he's like in sixth,
Yeah.
seventh, and then by the end of the stage he ended the stage. Uh, he pitted, and then he passed Larson on the last lap of the stage, and he's running second of the cars that pitted, and you're like, oh well, he's gonna fall backwards again. Well, then you learn that he was taking it easy, and he just didn't he took it too easy, and the first stage, and you see him just take off, and you're like, did they make an adjustment, or was he just, as you keep
Yeah.
saying, playing with his food? Like,
Yeah.
I legit, when he passed Larson, I said, well, Larson's just babying his stuff, just because he pitted with three or four to go instead of, oh, he just let him go because this. No, then
Yeah.
like you sit there and watch what he like, and he gapped him immediately. That's why I thought he was just
Yeah.
taking care of it. I'm like, no, that's not what he was doing. When you go back and look at it, and you sit there and wonder, where did this guy come from? Like,
Mhm.
he's the best driver at Coda when it comes to stats,
Yeah.
but still, like against SVG had 2 or 3 lap fresher tires,
Hmm.
and he gapped him by 4 seconds.
Yeah. And then he'd back up to
Bell
it
Bell
and then
had
pass
10 lap fresher tires,
and never
got
could
up
get
to
to
third, and was like, yeah, I'm done.
him. Yeah.
Like, it's nuts.
Yeah.
But
The performance they put on was exceptional. That's all that you can say about it.
I will say this though, and I told you all on the messenger deal. I told Chris on the phone. I've got to talk to you about it. If this whole race is totally changed on that last restart, if the 88 does not get taken out,
Oh yeah.
Connor Village wins that race, hands down. Why do I say that? He fell back to 33rd.
Yeah.
Where did he finish, Alan? No other cautions. Where did he finish?
He got back up there to what, 16th, I think?
14th.
14th. Okay.
He spun out on the last restart with less than 20 laps to go and finished 14th.
Yep.
And and I was watching the tracker,
Hmm.
how far behind time
Yeah.
wise. He was gaining while passing cars on the leader.
Well, yeah, before he got wrecked,
He
I
wins that
remember
race.
he
He
was
wins
the
that race.
fastest car on the track. He was running times faster than SVG and Reddick before he got spun out. And so, no, I was looking forward to seeing what was going to happen. So on the
Well,
subject of Zilich,
I told my
I
wife when that
yeah,
restart, I said, Village is going to win this race. And then
yep,
he gets spun out in the first corner. I said, son of a bitch.
yep. That's the only thing I don't like about Coda is that restart and going into that 180, back bend of a turn that
That's so dumb. That turn is so dumb.
like I don't even have a problem with that turn. I just don't think it should be the first turn on a restart when everybody's coming up where they can all be bunched together. I think that you should back up an entire turn or two for the restart because of that right there.
Mm.
A guy that was definitely going to challenge for the win, possibly win his first race, gets taken out. And he's like a mile away from everybody else, and he still gets taken out
Yeah.
because of the
If
dumb
I
things.
if I had been his spotter and saw what was happening, I would have said goose it,
Yep.
gas it up, gas or something. Tried to
Yep.
say something to get him to get his car away from the what was coming.
Yep.
Because I mean, if you watch it at full speed, surely the spotter could see that, and
Hmm.
maybe in the future when you go there, I'm hoping we never go there again. I don't like the track, and
I personally don't care for Coda for
you
reasons
know
we've
how
talked
much
about
I
before.
hated Road America. I'd rather race at Road America than Coda.
Well, so I listened to Buxton and Harvick on the new speed thing. And one thing Will Buxton said is Formula One tracks are like baby smooth. And Coda's a Formula One track at the end of the day. It was built specifically for Formula One. It's got those big sweeping turns for high, like super high downforce, high speed, nimble curves, massive brakes, wings, those big pagoda type things. And so to me, when you look at our best road races, regardless of who wins them, but our best overall road races that we've run in the last 5 years with the old car and this car, it always comes back to Sonoma, Watkins Glen, your narrower courses. The narrower the course, the better the road racing will be because it puts more of the technical back in and they can't just run wide every turn, which is what you're allowed. Coda allows you because of the width of those cars that it was designed for comparatively to this and the speeds of those cars. It gives you so much room to recover from a mistake if you miss your line. And
It,
you don't have that. If you miss your line at Watkins Glen, you're in the fucking Armco barrier. You miss your line at Wine Valley at Sonoma, you're in the freaking grapes, man. Or the dust. But you're not where you're not is still on the track, 20 more feet over. So I
that
think
kind of puts me into what I was going to bring up. I am so glad they brought in the tire packs
yes.
for 3, 4, 5, 6, and 15. I think it was.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to worry about stupid track limits.
No.
And Brett Cruz on BBC said, you know, it kind of goes to show you that having having those there, just like when you go to a street course, there's
Yeah.
walls everywhere. If you have a confined space, you're going to race smarter, and you don't run somebody off course knowing that there's something to run into. If there's
Well,
nothing to run into, you drive more like an asshole.
yeah. Well, look at when they had the turtles and they would get airborne there, and at the Roval, same thing. They just run them over because, well, it's under the car. It's not going to hit the sides. Okay. And then sometimes they get airborne and just rip the whole front of the damn car off, but they'd lose control and they'd ruin somebody else's race as a, result of their own stupidity. The tire packs, I agree. When they said they were going to enforce track limits, but only in certain areas again, I was like, here we go again. I was like, if either we're going to have track limits or we're not, but I don't want half in, half out. But I think this was actually a really good step in the right direction because you didn't hear about it all day.
The
You didn't
only
hear about
thing that
constant.
I didn't like with the tire packs is I feel like they were in the wrong spot. I feel like they need to come out another 2 feet because of where the track was. You had that
Yeah.
red painting.
Hmm.
I felt like it needed to come all the way out to the edge of the red, not to the beginning of the red.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
I do.
there, I felt like it was still you're still not racing inside the lines in a way,
Hmm.
but I mean it was I guess their lines.
It was a better race overall. Like I like the
Yeah.
short course, and I like enforcing the track limits the right way. If you were taking my vote on where we'd be going, if we go back there again, I'd still say no because I don't think it puts on the best race for these cars. And I think there's many other places we could go that would put on a better show. And at the end of the day, the job of every series is to put on the best product you can put on track for the fans. Coda doesn't put
Right.
on a very good product on track. So,
No.
um, anything else on Coda? So the one thing at the very end, obviously everybody saw it. For most people, Hocevar gets turned by the general, uh, Cole Custer, and this is where Hocevar, all right. So the first 2 weeks, everybody's talking about him, comparing him to Dale Senior. Well, unlike Dale Senior, the rest of the competition wouldn't dare put a fender to Dale Senior's car. They don't give two shits about Carson Hocevar. Like you wreck me, when the opportunity comes, I'm going to wreck you. And so Custer, for whatever reason, said, "Here's an opportunity to ruin your day, so I'm ruining your day right now." Now, was it for any serious points? No. You basically you wasted a mulligan for no good reason, in my opinion. I would have waited till he's running the top 10 all day somewhere and then taking something from him. You didn't take anything from him today other than all right, well, you turned him, but he's already not a good road racer anyway, so you really didn't hurt his points overall any worse than they already were.
Right.
So to the
Um,
people, yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry. What'd you think about our first, or I guess it was our second tire coming off this year?
I'm trying to figure out how that happened. I was looking at it, the rim was torn a little bit. Did the rim give up, or was that a byproduct of this?
It's a byproduct of the fact that the lug came off and the rim, the tire was coming off and it hit a certain way and it cut the rim.
Okay,
I guess it cut on the brake rotor in the back
okay.
when it fell off.
Um, I mean, I'm never gonna like this one lug nut deal. Just never going to.
Yeah.
It's too fast. You don't buy production cars with one lug nut. To me, one lug nut is a sports car F1 thing, always will be. We should really find a way to go back to five lugs because it would slow the pit stops down by about 5 seconds, which would solve all of our fueling issues at Daytona and Talladega, and all that crap too at the same
Well,
time. Um, so yeah,
well, I still think that they should look at if you're going to do one lug, you need to do it like F1 does. F1 has a bolt that goes in the tire. It's about this long. We
okay.
do a nut, they do a bolt. That's why you never see a F1 tire loop come off.
I was gonna say the way the F1s go on, it goes in and it locks it reminds me of an impact driver. Like you pull the thing back and it
Mhm.
releases off the ball bearings. Ours, we sit it on there and spin it and hope the teeth grip tight, and that's it. Like it's the cheap ass one lug nut.
That's what I'm
It's
saying. You need to look at F1 and go, let's do that. That works. It works with cars that have way more torque and way more
yeah,
way more top speed, etc. If it works for them, it'll work for us.
yep, absolutely. I agree.
Done in the first place, they're going to do it one lug. They need to do it. They need to look at. They need to stop looking at their series that they own and look at the series that has fast speeds, and go, okay, that works.
And that they're trying to, compete with from a notoriety standpoint.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what's coming up first, and then we'll get into the other news. So we're going to Phoenix. First off, it's no longer the final race of the season, but it doesn't really matter because we don't have the one winner take all. But who do you think is going to be strong there? I'm hesitant to pick Chevy because we have kind of an unknown with this body, and we're debuting our first oval, our real oval race, where you're going to be kind of on your own from a downforce perspective, to know where the balance is. Um, you know, to me, it's a toss up between Penske and JGR as to who's going to, win this race. What are you thinking?
Well, like I said in our preview show, I see Byron running good again, but we got to look at the fact that it's 750 horsepower, not 670. We're bringing the same tire back. Uh, I can't remember who was asked, but they're asked if they're gonna be as aggressive as they were in the fall, and I don't see why you would, especially with this point structure. I mean, Tyler Reddick has a 70-point lead over second. You can't let him get any further away than he already is. Um,
Right.
you know, uh, I think you're right in the sense of JGR and Penske, but I think you have to add a Hendrick car or two in there as well.
Yeah, I'm not ruling them out. I just don't know how strong the body arrow wise is going to be here now versus when we come back in the fall
Yeah.
because we don't
Um,
know as much about this nose yet in turns like this. Um, but we'll see. Yeah.
yeah. But definitely with the same tire compound with more horsepower, I'd say you're going to see tire wear be more pronounced than before with the 670 package.
Yeah. To me, it depends on the temperature, but with the increased tire wear we already had and now more horsepower, honestly, Chase Briscoe's really good there, been good in the past. Christopher Bell's been really good there. I really think, and even though I want to count them towards winning based off tire management there in the past. I really think it comes down to the 12 or the 22, honestly. Like I really think you're going to have to go through one of them two to win this thing. Joey and
Sunday,
Joey
86,
and Ryan
86 degrees.
are both fantastic at managing their tires there and making them last and having long run speed. And so I have a hard time picking between the two of them just because I know how good Joey Logano is, especially with Paul Wolf at managing his resources, and then we know how good Ryan Blaney is there. So
Yeah.
this is tough. The only place Ryan Blaney's better at managing tires than Phoenix is freaking Martinsville, which
Yeah.
I'm really nervous for the rest of the field when he gets there. You know, I feel bad for him because I think he's going to destroy him, but we'll see. So
Well,
yeah,
I wonder if the setup that Denny used in the fall will equate with the 750. I just,
I agree. So I was thinking about that, and my only concern is, Denny was in a different headspace then. And so I am curious, if he comes back to the same setup, but he's not as locked in as he was because of everything that's gone on from the lawsuit through the loss of his father prior to the start of the season and everything. Where, first off, the time is flying. We're already 4 races in. And to me, I'm like, I can't believe we're that far into the season already. We're four
yeah,
races in. There's only 23 left to go before we snap a chalk
that's
line.
how you know you're getting old when time flies like that.
Yeah. So I'm not complaining. It's surprising like that we're realizing that we're already that far in. But Denny would be an outside pick for me, but it's hard to say that he's going because of his headspace. I do worry about that. So
Yeah. Speaking
um
of Denny, he
yeah,
is 23rd in points,
yeah.
126 points out of the lead.
So that's where I was going with this next. So now we're 3 races in. Tyler Reddick sits alone with a 70-point gap at 186 points over his teammate. First off, way to go, Bubba. When you
Yeah.
think back to when Bubba was racing with RPM and everything, which really wasn't that long ago, to
No.
where he is now and the work he's put in, like yeah, you're going through two super speedways and a road course, but he finished well this past weekend at the road course. He's done a lot of work to run well there, and he's done a lot of work to minimize his mistakes. Where if he's not up front, he's not, completely wrecking his car out, uh, and those things. So, very, very good for 2311 and where they are. So with 23 races to go, I mean, that's a long time, but I mean, there's already a substantial gap between Tyler. I think it's too early to say Tyler's got a lock on the number one seed because you can lose a chunk of points here and chunk of points there. There's still a Talladega and a Daytona before we get to the cutoff for the 16. There's more road course races. There's plenty of short track, beating and banging. Motors can fail, all kinds of stuff. So right now they're riding high. I think he will. I don't think it's too early to say he will stay in the top three. I just don't know that he will be the number one seed
No,
with the gap.
I honestly don't think he will. I think his reign is over. I don't think he'll win another race the rest of the season, to be honest with you. Maybe one, like, out of nowhere. But if you take Reddick's string of good luck out, I know, I know Coda wasn't good luck. That was just being good driving.
Yeah,
If you take his points out of it, there is only 48 points between second and 16th.
yeah.
So, you know,
And as
uh,
bad a season as Alex Bowman is having, and he's in last with his 23 points, 16th is only 35 points ahead of him. So he could, or sorry, 45 points ahead of him. So it's not
no,
unrealistic for him to climb back into it.
no, no.
It's not going to happen because they're just not performing. But from a math perspective, it's not undoable right now.
And I kind of I gaffed earlier. We got to talk about this. Your driver's sick, evidently sick as a dog.
Yeah.
Driving around the hottest race of the year so far is 85 degrees. So it's probably what that usually equates to about 120 degrees inside the car.
I think Allmendinger said it was almost 150.
Okay. Oh yeah, these cars get hotter. So 150
Yep.
degrees inside the car. And you don't have a driver already on standby.
Yeah.
He pulls in the pits and you're 3 or 4 laps down already before you ever get the other guy in the car. Like,
Yep.
I'm sorry, but that I don't know. I had a really big problem with this. You have so much history in having a driver on standby. It was in the middle of the race before they ever tried to find somebody.
Yeah.
You didn't have Corey Day or Raja stay knowing your driver's fucking sick. What do you or Allgaier.
Hmm.
You don't have any of those drivers stay, and then you let your car go 5 laps down on a road course that takes a minute 40 to go around under green. How long does it take to go under caution? And you lose
Yeah.
five
Yeah,
fucking
they're like
laps.
20-minute cautions when you're under caution.
So you 5 laps you lost on a road course that takes that long to go around. That was fucking terrible. I hope they learned from that because surely to God, uh who they get forget his name already. He's a broadcaster's son. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Myatt Snyder. Yeah.
They got Myatt Snyder. I mean, he's not an insanely great driver, but he's good enough. He probably would have gained a couple spots.
His times they said were where they needed to be and they were consistent.
So you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they totally goofed. Like I don't understand what they were thinking. You you can't tell a driver it's up to you. Get your ass in here and let's put somebody else in. Let's do it quick. Instead, we're finding a random driver that's spotting for TV personality. Like,
You're right. Yeah.
what are we doing? This is Hendrick
No,
fucking Motorsports, and you don't have somebody lined up waiting.
no, I
I'm
agree.
sure Jimmy
That's,
Johnson was there. Hey, Jimmy, you want to get back in your car?
yep. But no,
Like,
I agree. That just shows piss poor planning there.
mhm.
Period.
Lean over the shoulder. Hey, Jeff, you want to do one last road race? Like,
Right?
come on. NASCAR's not going to say no.
So let's look at our points now.
Mhm.
So Bowman's last of the 36 chartered cars at 23 points. 16th right now is at 68 points. So you're
Okay.
talking 45 points difference, which isn't completely insurmountable. I don't think he'll make that back up just because of how they're performing. But when I look at to get there, though, some of these guys that are down here, I do see catapulting very quickly to where they belong. So let's see, for example,
I
Connor
do
Zillich.
gain
He's
16 spots.
Yep.
Sorry.
So Connor Zillich, I'm working my way from the bottom to the top. Connor
Sorry about that.
Zillich, 37 points. Okay. Within 2 races, he's going to be inside the top 16. I'm
Okay.
fairly confident. Let's look at um, Chase Briscoe. He's got 46 points to that mark. And the person he's chasing right now is Ryan Preece with 68. He'll be there in 2 races, if not within one. Christopher Bell, 59 points to 68. He will be in the top, comfortably inside the top 16 after this weekend.
Yep. Same with
Denny
Denny.
Hamlin, same thing with him. Kyle Busch honestly could be.
Possibly. Yep.
Um,
Because of who they're facing. Ryan
yeah,
Preece,
yeah,
Aaron Smith, Carson Hosfar, possibly.
yeah,
Allmendinger. Like, yeah.
yeah. The people who, so this was these first 3 races were your opportunity to set yourself up for the next handful before we get to another wild card, if you will. The only 2 drivers I see, well, I would say 3, that have really maximized their opportunity to do that are Shane Van Gisbergen with 90 points, Daniel Suarez with 87 points, and AJ Allmendinger with 86 points.
I put McDowell in there too.
And yeah, I would say McDowell in there with 83. Those guys all set themselves up and made the most of their situation and I would have said Hocevar had he not gotten himself in trouble, He dropped 6 positions, didn't really gain anything this weekend with his 82 points. So his first 2 races bailed him out. Where if he has several weeks like this, he's going to drop like a rock. But those guys have bought themselves enough points. They're not going to make the 16 necessarily yet, but it's going to be hard to overtake them because once you get up in here, Blaney's at 100 points. Chase is at 114. Bubba's at 116. Even for Kyle Larson to make that up at 73 points to Bubba, well, you're already racing around in most races anyway, inside the top 15. It's harder to gain points on some of these guys. I have no doubt that, that Byron, Larson, those guys are going to be in the top 16. Getting to the top 3 or 4 positions is going to be hard at this point if you're not
Well, not
within
as
first
hard
eight. It's not
depending on who you
impossible
are.
because 23 races where there's stage points up for grabs and everything, so there's still quite plenty that can happen.
Well, that's what I was
But
about to say. In these races we just did, especially the road race, you gave up stage points to pit. And the races coming up, talking about Vegas, Phoenix,
yeah,
you pit halfway through a run, everybody does.
yeah,
So you're running where you're running. You're gonna find that people are gonna make up points a lot faster than you remember because if you end up winning, you're not only just gaining what you used to, you're gaining 15 more points
yeah.
than before. So I
Yeah,
think
if you win a couple
Steve
points,
brought
I
this
mean
up, the
Tyler
swings
Reddick,
are going to be so much bigger.
yeah, 45 points of Tyler Reddick's cushion is just straight up bonus from winning for
Yeah.
3 consecutive wins.
So if you take what Kyle Larson usually does in Vegas, he usually wins both first stages and finishes top five. You take that into account, that those points disappear real quick if you don't run good. So all these
Yep,
people are like Reddick's a lock for winning the. No, he's not. He did that in 3 races. He can lose it in 3 races, just as
yeah,
easy.
yep.
I want
You
to remind everybody what Larson did to Denny Hamlin in 21. He was with 10 races to go. He is 220 points behind, and he won the regular season championship. This is only 70, and you have the entire field on your ass.
Yep. Yeah, that's why I say I'm not ready to lock him in for the default #1 position. His points gap does give me confidence that as long as they don't go on an awful bend, that they'll stay comfortably inside that top 3, though. You're not talking, unlike the rest of the field, to Bubba at, 116 back to 60, 50 points really isn't that hard to make up. Making up another 70 on top of that is going to take a little bit more. So
Yeah.
I think where Bubba's reign in the second position and third position possibly, you might have 3 or 4 races. I think it buys Tyler Reddick 8 races, where as long as he
Okay.
runs just okay, he's got 8 races where before somebody else of a Larson or a Bell caliber is going to come up there and challenge him for it, unless they also go on a string of wins back to back to back to back.
Well, you got captain consistency in third place, 72 points behind. Chase Elliott
Yep.
is,
He's
you
the one
know,
I would be most scared of right now if I was the rest of the field. He made it through that. He's 114.
something we got to bring up. I didn't know this until yesterday. I was looking at X on some stuff. Chase Elliott did something insanely smart on Sunday that I don't think many people know about. When Chastain lost his tire,
Mhm.
he visually saw the tire and he made the call to come down pit road.
Get more fuel, get tires.
He got tires and fuel and then they threw the caution as he was on pit road. So like he gained himself a shit ton of spots by being heads up and going, "Hey, I'm coming down pit road."
Yep. So, all right. So now let's move on to other news. Let's see here. All right. So I don't think we touched on it because it didn't come out till late. Yeah, it came out on Monday. So
I apologize.
Gabehart,
Sorry, I know you were wanting to move on. What
no.
was your thoughts? Did you Chip said that the five was a ticking time bomb on Sunday because of
Oh,
the
yeah. I know what you're saying. Okay.
what what was your did you think that they made a mistake by not changing engines or doing whatever to start in the back? Or do you think they made the I mean, obviously they made the right call. He finished in sixth. But what do you think on that?
So when I initially saw that they were reporting there was an issue, I was very skeptical about them not changing it. But they have more data than we do, so they know the history of the engine, how many races it's been, what the typical lifespan of the component they think is the problem. So I've learned to trust Cliff in them. If he thinks it's severe enough, he would take it to the back. He's done it before. I don't think he would put Larson in a position this early on with the way the points are structured for failure to dig a hole. I just don't believe Cliff would do that. So
Okay.
that's like my initial impression. Like even though at face value it seems like yeah, you probably should get out your backup car, or change the engines. At the same time, with as valuable as the points are and as valuable as track's position is there, if you don't have a car like Connor Zilic, you're going to have a very hard time clawing your way back up to that starting spot, let alone getting back up into where they ultimately finished in the sixth. So I think they made the right call, not just because of the outcome, but I mean, I think I probably would have made the same call based on if I was sitting in that set of shoes, I would have reviewed all that information and been like, we'll be fine. Even if we only finish inside the top 10, I'll take that over starting in the back and getting in trouble and, you know, all the things that can go wrong. I mean, Zilic started his first race in this race last year, didn't make it through the first stage because he got wiped out from somebody else's problem. You know, it takes very little to. In this weekend, he got wiped out by somebody else's problem, and he was being super careful. So, and he was at the front of the field. So I think in
It
this
don't matter.
regard, your risk versus reward, you have to be even more measured in, because a win in your in isn't enough. You can't afford to just throw it in there, and if it doesn't work, well, I'll just win next week and lock myself in. That's not going to work for you anymore.
Yep. Sorry,
So,
I had to ask about that.
no, no, that's okay. I think it's a good topic. I mean, if we were under the old point system, I totally would have taken the backup car because I've been like,
Backup engine, you mean?
yeah, that's what I mean. Backup engine or backup car, one of the two. And been like, you know what? This isn't our best track anyway, so we'll be fine. You know,
Yeah.
but
Outside
now,
of 2021, this was his best run at the track. In
yeah,
the next gen car. He's had shitty luck the other 22, 23, 24, and 25. He just terrible luck. I mean, people ran into him, broke his car, third. Finally to have a good run there feels as a fan feels good.
yeah.
All right, sorry.
No, that's
I
okay.
will not.
So in other news, uh, Toyota or not Toyota, Ford and Chevy miss a golden opportunity. Keelan Harvick signs to TRD for a long-term development deal. I'm happy for Harvick as a Harvick fan because, Keelan's going to be a superstar, no question about it. It's a missed opportunity from Chevy and Ford not to develop a guy who
Is
was
it
in
though?
both their camps. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Is it though? Let
I
somebody
mean,
else pay for it.
now don't get me wrong. There's a chance they'll have an opportunity to pick him up later, but there's a team owner out there that wasn't in the pipeline in the past, and that's Denny Hamlin, which I have a separate conversation about that I want to talk about. I
Okay.
think um, that's going to piss off a lot of people, but so I mean, I think it's great. We'll see what happens. Since he's in their development deal, I'm now, he's 13, turning 14. He's only a handful of seasons before we're going to see him in a truck.
I'm sorry. When I read that, and I think I called you and Chris immediately. Rick Hendrick was in his office one. Thank you. Thank you for spending some money for me. And
Yep. Oh no, no doubt
I'm
about
glad
it.
I'm on the other end, buddies.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, Toyota is the place that builds them, and then Hendrick is the one that buys them. He's like, thank you for doing that. I'll take Larson. I'll take Byron.
They
I'll
they
take,
lost they've lost Larson, and like you said, Larson, Byron, Eric
oh,
Jones. They got Eric Jones back, but
yep,
all these drivers have gone through Toyota, and then they're like, we're done. We've got somebody else now, and then now all of them are superstars.
yep. So sticking with the Toyota front. So at the beginning of the week, Right after the weekend and the teardown, ironically, JGR amends the lawsuit to include Spire, which I agreed with them. I don't know what the hell you're waiting on. Like once you found out he was going to Spire and took your stuff, I don't know why they weren't in the complaint in the first place. But the interesting part of the whole thing to me, separate from the, just them trashing Gabehart trashing Ty Gibbs and Heather Gibbs, uh, was so the judge says you can still work and you can work at Spire in that position, but that position can't have any duties that are aligned to your previous duties. And my issue with that kind of injunction is that's like saying, well, you're a programmer at Amazon. And if you want to go work at Microsoft, you can work at Microsoft, but now you can't be a programmer. Well, what the fuck are you supposed to do? To justify the paycheck they're giving you. Well, I still want you to pay me like I'm this top tier programmer, but I'm
It,
going to sweep
it,
the floors, you
you
know.
you mentioned it earlier when we were talking pre-show. How the how the hell are you gonna?
Well, that's the other thing. How are you going to enforce this? You going to
Yeah,
follow them around? You going to get a court ordered
you're gonna have somebody from Joe
chaperone?
Gibbs just all the time. Just what you doing?
Yeah.
Like
How would they know? Like if you appoint a court ordered chaperone, how would they
they're
even know
gonna
the
know.
difference? Uh,
How would they
because
know?
right, exactly. Because a crew chief at HMS isn't necessarily the same thing as a crew chief at 2311 at JGR so every race team uses those roles a little bit differently. So I don't know how you're going to enforce this. It's a long way from being settled, but uh, so yeah, the biggest detriment I see to it out of the whole thing, and we kind of touched on it the last time, but is the longer this goes, the harder it will be to attract top tier employees to go to JGR. Because the more Gabehart opens his mouth and talks about how Silver Spoon Boy dictates what kind of job you have, even regardless of what you were hired to do, the harder it's going to be to keep your top tier talent and or to bring top tier talent in if they know they're not going to be able to do the job they're hired to do. And that he's the number one priority, not the
And
program priority.
on top of that, supposedly starting next year, um, which goes against what I thought was going to happen, but starting next year, Legacy is going to be basically the next Furniture Row. And
Yeah, I heard that actually. I forgot
is
about
that really gonna be as big of a benefit if the team that you're getting the stuff from isn't as strong as it used to be?
yeah, I mean, because I mean, they don't run awful now on their own. Sometimes they just get caught up in messes not their own making. They've been pretty strong on their own. Do you really want to tie your little dinghy to that ship? And then when that cruise liner goes down, you go with it? Like, no.
Right.
So, yeah, that's when that one's just going to be interesting. So we'll see what comes from that. We talked about it before we went to it, but Jordan Bianchi in one of his little quiet Bianchi bombs mentioned, and it hasn't really been talked about too much, but the Truck Series sponsorship is up at the end of this season, and Craftsman's not renewing. They didn't stay as long as I thought they would. They had it, then they gave it up for Camping World, then they came back and took it back. So I'm interested to see who picks this up because you could do a lot, with the young drivers that are down there, especially with these partner events and stuff. And NASCAR on as a whole is on a rise. I'm not going to say, it's too early to say where it will plateau out compared to where it started, but they're on a rise compared to, the the area they were and how much content we were generating, things like that. So they're, the hell yeah. Overall, the season's opened up with a lot of really positive momentum so far. And Michael Jordan winning has done a lot for the sport, even if you want to fly the black helicopters. Being on Sports Center, we haven't been on Sports Center in forever. Being on Good Morning America, being on football podcasts and basketball podcasts, just because it's Michael Jordan who's winning is good for the sport. So it's getting
No,
eyes.
it's not good for the sport. NASCAR says so.
Right. So, um, from a truck standpoint, I don't know who you get from a sponsor. It needs to be a good fit sponsor, though.
We talked about this before. They need to do the same thing with trucks and O'Reilly that they did with Cup. They need to find 3 or 4 people that are good for
Yep.
the long term, and just make it call it the Truck Series, call it the Great National Series, and give it a rest.
Yeah, I agree.
Because all it does is confuse people. You still have people call it the Bush Series. You still have people that came in later that call it the Nationwide Series, and
Mhm.
you're going to have people that always call it the Xfinity Series.
Yep.
So it, I know people. I know a couple guys that still call the Truck Series the Crash, the not Craftsman. They still call it the Camping World Series.
Yep.
That's because when they came in. So just call it the Truck Series, NASCAR Truck Series, NASCAR Grand National, and NASCAR Cup, and just hell, try to get the 4 people that are on board for Cup to do all 3 of them.
Yeah, honestly,
Do you
it
really
wouldn't be
do
a
you
bad deal.
really need a sponsor for your stuff? You don't.
No, not at this point. Um, and not with the media deals that they're getting now. Uh, so let's see. I got three other things. One's a conversation to send to Bob Pockrass, but so the first one, in the vein of 2311 winning and Denny, specifically, I want to focus on the Denny Hamlin aspect of it. So he's an active driver who started a team from scratch. He didn't buy another team. He just started a team from zero and built it up with, the money of Michael Jordan in his own and the smarts that he has and hiring the right people. And so now here he is. They've won 2 crown jewels, broken NASCAR history, and are on their way up. And so here's what I want to compare. I compare in my mind 2311 is like DEI 2.0. Dale Sr., Denny Hamlin, in this regard, as a team owner, is very much like Dale Sr. He doesn't have Dale Sr.'s 7 championships, but he built this racing organization because he saw talent that he wanted to be able to foster. And he's now able to see that success where unfortunately Dale never got to see the fruit of his labor and thus it fell apart over time. Where Denny is seeing it grow and grow and grow. And so just to me, like he's cementing his place in NASCAR history well beyond already uh, his records behind the wheel, which he is certainly a Dale Senior level Hall of Fame type guy in terms of multiple Daytona 500s, multiple Southern 500s, Coke 600. Hasn't won the Brickyard, but and hasn't won a championship, but in the different formats he's been in, he's had multiple opportunities or been close. Um, and 60 wins. So in a lot of ways, he reminds me of a Dale Senior from a driver owner perspective. He's successful behind the wheel, but he's also building an extremely successful team for when he steps out from behind the wheel.
Yeah.
So let's see. The next thing, the thing we do right now, this podcast, I just wanted to ask you kind of your thoughts. A couple of years ago, we saw, all right, the speed stage has been gone for a while. The NASCAR race day by the Home Depot has been gone. The speed channel's been gone. We lost the hub. And for a while there, for basically the last decade, decade and a half, we saw NASCAR basically bleeding all of its content, you know, for the race fans have. And now as I sit here and I look at, weekly, it always seems to be there's something new coming. My first question is, do you think we're entering like a new golden age of NASCAR media now that NASCAR has its own production studio? And look at the people and the con where the con not just the people that are creating content, but where they are. What do you think about what all we've got over the last few years?
It's it's awesome that it's happening, but at the same time, I mean, we're part of the problem. I'm going to call it a problem. It's oversaturated, um, and because anybody can do it, uh, it's awesome at the same time. But me and you are having to pick and choose what we listen to because we just don't have the time outside of work. And you got, I know I personally, I listen to some of the junior download every week. I listen to all DBC, and sometimes I get to Action is hypocritical. I mean detrimental. And um, I would like to listen. I sometimes listen to Happy Hour. I sometimes listen, and this is very rare. I listen to Klingerman and Castle,
Yeah, money lab.
um, but there's just not enough time in a week. And I just you were talking about speed on Fox, and I was looking through Bob Hawker's stuff, and this goes to show you like how much information is going on with these podcasts. Liz McFarland just signed a 2-year part-time deal with Richard Childress Racing to race all the super speedways in the O'Reilly's Auto Part Series.
Yeah.
It is, I mean, the amount of information that goes out on a daily basis on all these different podcasts is way more than we've ever
And
had.
social media. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because yeah, for a while there we were bleeding information and we couldn't get enough behind the scenes and everything. And I agree now, like I said, now I have to pick and choose what I listen to. And it's not even picking and choosing from, oh well, I'm gonna listen to the really good and that's gonna be crap anyway. My biggest problem is they're all good. These are all top tier. We've got Mark Martin now has a podcast. And I love hearing Mark Martin's perspective as the old time racer because he does a mixture of both historical and
Is his show good? Because I haven't listened to it yet.
it is. Mark with his son Matt are very good at they cover the historical. He talks about racing from his period and setups and stuff, but he also talks about how he views today. And then you've got Kenny Wallace and Kenny Schrader, the Kennys. K squared, they've run their thing and they're under the Dirty Mo banner. And now, on top of Mark Martin already having his own thing with Kenny Wallace's media platform, that again, who would have thought you'd be saying Kenny Wallace has a media platform? But that Kenny Wallace has built his little media empire, Coffee with Kenny, and all those things he's done. So Mark Martin's under that banner. Now Mark Martin's also joined under Dirty Mo for Dirty Mo Overdrive, like toward the end of the week.
I did
And
not know
yep, that was announced today. So okay, well, as
that.
if I'm Chris and I love Mark Martin, like here's more stuff I got to listen to hear from
Mhm.
my guy that I cheered for so many years. And we've got the immediate reaction on race day from two different groups. You get the inside the
Yeah.
race with Steve Letarte and Kyle Petty and Shannon Spake, and then you also get the teardown with Jeff Gluck and
That's
Jordan
another one I
Bianco.
forgot. I try to listen to them,
So,
but so much, so much to take in.
and if you're an IndyCar guy, now you got Speed Street. And now we've brought back the speed uh, branding and the speed, kind of like the wind tunnel antithesis here with Will Buxton and Kevin Harvick. Like I was already enjoying Harvick Happy Hour, and this was my only concern was if he started doing this other, would this take away from what he does on Harvick Happy Hour, where it's focused more toward NASCAR. But so far, I am enjoying it with Harvick and Will because they're covering racing across the board in a similar way that uh, Landon Castle and Parker Kligerman do with Money Lab. So, and then you got Stacking Pennies, let's not forget. And you've got Holler Talk. Like even the NASCAR officials have a damn podcast. So, the one thing I will say I did notice across all of this, NBC is absent. There is not one NBC representative anywhere in this media. It's either all owned by NASCAR/Fox or Dirty Mo Media.
Mhm.
They're all somehow under Dirty Mo Media or under the NASCAR umbrella. And so I think that's a missed opportunity from a television partner to not have any content. You can't wait till the end of the year to try and get your listeners. They'll have forgotten about you. Like Nate Ryan joined NASCAR when he left NBC on NASCAR, and so he stopped doing that podcast. That was really good. Kyle Petty moved over from NBC because of their lack of involvement, and he's under NASCAR now. So uh, I do think for the first time in a long time, it reminds me very much of like the late 90s, early 2000s, where we were on MTV Cribs and we had the NASCAR 360 and all these different shows. For the first time, we really have a wealth of content. It's almost too much to choose from. Who do you want to hear from? You want to hear from, like you said, Action Hypocritical. You want to hear from a driver owner. You want to hear from a driver owner with Denny. You want to hear with spotters? Do you want to hear from the media members themselves? Do you want to hear from the officials? There's just so much information that you can't possibly process it all. And then you got some
Yeah.
hillbillies like us talking too. So, and like Breakhard and Eric Estep, who have put in a lot of time to get their stuff going. So there's definitely it's oversaturation for sure. I'm curious to see how long it lasts this way in this new era that we're kicking off.
I think it'll just depend on if, how much people put into it, or like, people that actually are filming it, and do they enjoy doing it, and do they feel like they're getting a good response from it?
Yep.
We
Like
do this because we love it. Sometimes we don't do it when we want to, but it'll depend on that, in my opinion.
the big thing to me that I'm already seeing with this saturation that is a negative is, and it happened at the Daytona 500, and it happened last week, and it's happening this week. They all want to talk about the same thing. Like there's not enough diversity among some of these in terms of content. Like, oh, I had on Cletus. Now I have to have on Cletus. Now I had on Connor. Now I need to have on Connor.
That
There
that's
are,
kind of like why on ours, I feel
yeah,
like it's we should, we talked about how go over the race itself, like stage by stage. I feel it would change our landscape a little bit for new people that find us, and maybe they didn't get to watch the race, and we kind of do a play by play in a way.
yeah, because there is so like if, for example, okay, Dale Jr. this week did his thing with Cletus. Well, Kevin Harvick also talked to Cletus. Well, I'm gonna pick one. I'm not gonna listen to both. I just don't need to hear all the same information twice.
Yeah,
And so that's where
yeah.
it's hard to.
I'm Cletus out.
I'm not. I'm happy for him, but I don't need to hear everything the same thing twice. And it's the same thing with Zilich. Like, okay, he's the next top prospect. Now let's see some races happen, and then let's talk to him again. How's your year? About halfway through the year, and then go talk to him. How's your year gone compared to where you thought it would? Your first full time year, those kind of things. So,
Yep,
um, well, I think that's everything I have. The
yep.
one thing I want to send out a question on to Mr. Bob Pockrass, who always has the information that I talked to you about, is in all the hoopla about the new point system and you know the way things are going to run this year going forward. I don't remember seeing anything about what happens when you now get an L1, L2 penalty. Before you couldn't you couldn't get into the championship, or the playoffs with a waiver anymore. You lost that right because you couldn't get a waiver from that penalty. And then on top of it, you lost all your playoff points. Well, there's no playoffs anymore, and there's no playoff points to be taken away. So what does that look like now from a penalty standpoint? The first time somebody does something like what Austin Hill did, for example, where last year we saw those penalty points being taken away to have a dramatic impact.
We'll just figure it out later.
Yep.
We'll wait for it to happen.
Or somebody gets hurt like Brad, and can you afford to take the waiver now? So you can't really because you need every point from every race. So
Needing a waiver in this format is stupid as hell.
you shouldn't need a
The
waiver. I don't even think
missing
a
the
waiver
race,
can do anything for you.
missing the race itself is a problem. So why are we making it harder?
Yeah, I don't think there's a waiver. I don't think they even have a waiver anymore. I think it's pretty much you're done. So, all right, well, that's everything I had. I know it was a lot. We were on here a little longer than we probably planned, but
Yeah, I
it was
didn't.
actually
I
a
thought it'd
very
be about a
chaotic
40 minute
week.
show.
Yep. So they had a lot of stuff happen prior to the races this week, just
Yeah,
because of all the little things.
I will say that the O'Reilly field is a lot tighter than Cup. It is from first to 12th, which is what matters in their series, is 84 points.
Okay.
And see here, the only person that's way outside looking in that you would think would be closer with being with a better team this year is Harrison Burton, 34th in points. He only has 18 points, 136 out of first. And was about 90 out of 16th or something like that. So he's got some digging to do.
Yeah. The biggest thing I'm looking to see here overall now is, in the next couple weeks, is less about the points climb between all these and more about how the new Chevy bodies run because we're going to have a succession of our more standard tracks. We're going to have Martinsville, Bristol, Vegas, Phoenix, Darlington. Like we're going to get to all these over the next 8 to 10 weeks,
Yeah.
and we're going to find out did they make the right adjustments to this car or are we in deep trouble? You
Yeah.
know?
I outside of the Chevy part of it, I'm excited for Darlington because Darlington is it's essentially raced like a mile and a half, but it's not, and it's going to be 750, and I'm stoked to see what
Yeah.
that looks like
Yep.
this
More
this
wear.
fall.
So,
But yeah, that's all I got, buddy.
all right. Well, thank you all for listening. If you got this far, appreciate it. Sorry we dragged on so long, and we'll see you next week after our first regular oval of the year at Phoenix. We'll see how this new high horsepower with the softer tire wears out, or doesn't wear out. Maybe we'll find out. Until next time.
Later, guys.